You're probably like me. Sick and tired of dealing with all those meta builds day in and day out. I mean, they run around and act like they own the place with their overpowered, unkillable God mode 1vx builds, right? Act like they know what a real esports build is. They don't know what a real esports build is. This is a real esports build. This build is certified MLG. Because their meta builds can't do this.
It didn't quit me. Okay.
But my hope will never die.
Yeah, that's right, you meta builds. You better watch out if you know what's good for you. Anyways, this is a build video, so I highly recommend that you sit through the entire thing to understand it fully. If you want to refer back to something that I said, or you don't want to be a part of these introduction shenanigans any longer, there are timestamps in the description of this video, and having said that, let's talk. So this build is an updated build of something I did a couple patches ago, I can't remember, but it is an updated version of my one-shot bow and arrow stamina Nightblade build, and it holds up very well today in the current patch. Since last time we did this build video, hybridization was not introduced into this build, so I did change a few things in order for it to work, and well, we're also changing things for the high IL DLC, and well, it's not out yet on console, but I already know what I'm going to run because I did all of the testing on the PTS I needed to, and this build is actually going to perform a lot better next patch. Except for the part where ZeniMax for some reason thinks Cloak is bugged when you're not supposed to take dot damage while invisible, but for some reason that was a bug. That's always been a feature. I don't know what's wrong with ZeniMax. Anyways, for the approachability rating of this build, I give it a 2 out of 5 stars, mainly because if something goes wrong at any point during your gank, it's up to you to correct that mistake as quickly as possible so you don't risk getting killed. Because if you're caught at a stealth for more than like 2 seconds and someone doesn't manage to kill you, then they need to rework their build because this build is really soft. Did I mention that this is a gank spec? That means the killing part of this build is very easy, as long as you can get all of your skills to function properly. Half the time they don't work for some reason, because ZeniMax won't fix their game, but they'll nerf everything and add more cosmetics, but that's besides the point. And also, I have a montage for you guys. I had to go all around Cyrodiil and snipe random people in order to get enough clips for this montage to showcase the power of this build, so I do hope you guys enjoy it. But before we get to the montage, if you want to stay up to date with these builds that I do, or you end up watching all the way to the end, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if that's not enough, what is there that I can do to convince you to subscribe? I don't know. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the montage.
guy right on the relic.
Okay, well, the other two reds are chasing me, so weaken them quick.
Get him, get him, get him! This is it! Oh!
Did I get him?
Sorta!
But my hope will never die.
I just watched your stream. I came off way too slow. I'll take it. I'll take. That's close enough.
Taking a look at our attributes, we have 24 points into magic, 9 points into health, and 31 points into stamina. This is the front bar unbuffed. This is the back bar unbuffed. Buffing up slightly, these are the stats of the front bar. And these are the stats of the back bar. You can pause if you need to see anything. And quickly, let's take a look at that advanced stats sheet, because that crit damage is pretty important. For our race, I am a Khajiit. We are a Khajiit because this is a crit damage spec. I can't recommend any other race. Khajiit is the best choice for the passives that we get. Robustness, increasing our recoveries. Lunar Blessings, increasing our max stats. And Feline Ambush, increasing our critical damage and critical healing by 12%. And making us a hide-and-seek pro. On this build, I am a Vampire Stage 3. We're a Vampire Stage 3 because it gives us access to Stage 1, 2, and 3 passives, which are very helpful. We cap out at Stage 3 because of the Undeath passive, reducing our damage taken by 30% based off of our missing health. This is powerful because when we are caught out of stealth, we are very squishy, so having that extra mitigation comes in handy. But also the Stage 1 and 2 passives really pair well with being a Nightblade, especially a gank spec. Darkstalker, allowing us to move in stealth very easily, and Strike from the Shadows, increasing our damage when we come out of stealth. Vampire is an amazing choice, it's not negotiable. For our Mundus Stone, I'm using the Serpent. We're using the Serpent for the extra stam recovery that it gives us. This stam recovery is important, being Stage 3, and also the expensive cost of the bow abilities in general. If we are caught at a stealth, the stam recovery really does come in clutch, allowing us to sustain and get away from people if we need to. You don't want to do something like the Shadow, because you will be going over the crit cap, and also your sustain will be trash. So just use the Serpent. It's the best choice for this build. For our consumables, if you can afford it, use Zorga Smoke Bear Haunch. This gives us maximum health and recoveries for all of our stats. This is very good because we use all of our stats very often on this build. I can't really afford it anymore because it keeps going up in price and it's stupid, but I remedy this by using Jewels of Misroll. This gives us the same thing, but minus the health recovery, and, you know, it's not a stat dense, so that's what I've been using. It's the budget option. I tend to keep a few of these on hand since we're a vampire. Corrupting Bloody Mara. This will set us to Stage 4 vampirism. And then we have Purifying Bloody Mara. This will lower our stage by 1, allowing us to have control over our vampirism on the go. For our potions, we are using the Essence of Health potion. This gives us all of our resources back and recoveries for each of those resources. Like I said, we use all of the resources on this build quite often, so having this potion really helps back up our sustain. And the second potion I'm using is the Essence of Immovability, or the Detect potion. Very handy because of how soft we are on this build. We're an easy target for Nightblades, but not with this potion active. So I've been using this a lot more in all of my builds just to get rid of those pesky Nightblades like ourselves. And no, we are not using any weapon poisons on this build. Hello and welcome to the gear section of the video. If you're just here for the gear, you're not going to get much because this build is very specific in how it was designed. Anyways, on our front bar we have Cowrian's Legacy Bow with a shock enchantment. It is sharpened. If you don't know what Cowrian's does by this point, basically a light or heavy attack if it crits turns you into an artillery piece. On the back bar we have the Vegetarian's Greatsword with a weapon damage enchantment. It is defending. If you want to use power, that's fine, but I'm using defending because we need that little bit of extra defense. It kind of helps. And if you don't know what Vegetarian's Greatsword does, basically, well, look. For our head, we are using Balorg's Mask, meaning it's medium, with a tri-stat enchantment. It is impenetrable. My desired trait would be well-fitted and not impenetrable. We have this here for the one piece of weapon and spell damage that it gives to us. For our chest, we are using Leviathan Jack with a tri-stat enchantment. This is Divines. This is the Ascending Tide DLC currently on console, and it hasn't been updated to High Isle yet. For the High Isle DLC, we will be dropping Leviathan in favor of Order's Wrath, because that will give us so much more damage for roughly the same amount of crit chance. This is a craftable set, so that's another added bonus. When you're crafting it, make sure you craft it in medium, because, well, we're just substituting Leviathan out for Order's Wrath. If they at some point end up nerfing Order's Wrath, we'll just go back to Leviathan, but at the moment, just use Order's Wrath in place of Leviathan. For our shoulders, we have Leviathan arm cops with a stamina enchantment. These are well fitted. For our belt, we have a Cowrian's Legacy sash with a stamina enchantment. This is well fitted. For our hands, we have Leviathan bracers with a stamina enchantment. These are well fitted. For our legs, we have Leviathan guards with a tri-stat enchantment. These are divines. For our feet, we have Leviathan boots with a stamina enchantment. These are divines. For our necklace, we have Cowrian's Legacy necklace with a weapon damage enchantment. This is infused. For our first ring, we have Cowrian's Legacy ring with a weapon damage enchantment. This is infused. And for our second ring, we have the Marken Ring of Majesty with a weapon damage enchantment, and this is swift. If you don't have access to the Marken Ring of Majesty, just use the Ring of the Wild Hunt in its place. That should work too. I can't recommend swapping anything else out on this build. Everything's kind of where it needs to be and how it needs to be with Cowrians and Leviathan into Order's Wrath. All of those things are very specifically set up and designed for this build to work the way it does. So, if you can find some way to switch it up, I mean, go ahead. Make it and tune it to your playstyle, but this is the spec that I'm using. On our front bar, we have Lethal Arrow. You could still spam this ability, but it's not as potent as it once was. It's definitely fallen from glory, but you can get its old power back by comboing it with a bunch of other skills. Next up, we have Camouflage Hunter. It can pull enemies out of stealth if they're in stealth, but we're not really using it for that. We're using it because of the savagery that it gives us while it's slotted, also the berserk that we get when we hit someone from behind, and the Slayer passive in the Fighters Guild skill line, allowing us to push our damage up a lot further, just by having it slotted. Next up, we have Impale. This is our execute ability. This is a ranged execute ability, so it pairs amazingly well with this build. We use this to kill players, and now that it's hybridized, it was not hybridized last time, if they're below 25% health, it's basically a bow proc if it crits. And we can spam this on people who are low health, but normally it'll just kill them outright, because it can hit upwards of 16k on a crit, and it's ridiculous. Next up, we have Crushing Weapon. This is our combo starter ability, so we open from stealth with this attack, and basically what this does is it applies major breach to them, reducing their total armor, and also it stuns them from stealth, and well, this skill is amazing, and you need to get it. And I'll explain more of how it works in the combat stuff section of the video. Next up, we have Merciless Resolve. We're not using the other more Relentless Focus because we can sustain this ability. And basically, whenever you do a light or heavy attack, you get stacks. And at 5 stacks, you can cast a bow and arrow that will completely destroy people and remove them from the gene pool if it crits. Though, with how the combat system works in PvP, you always lose your stacks if you're not in combat, and it's really annoying. So just keep that in mind. You generally end up casting your bow if you're fighting a really tanky target or you're stuck in a long and drawn out fight. For our front bar ultimate, we are using Toxic Barrage. People in my streams have been telling me to use Ballista, the other morph of this, but I like Toxic Barrage because 1, it's toxic, and 2, that dot is insane. If they somehow manage to get away, it will tick on their health for 4k every single tick, and if it crits, it'll crit for 8k, and it's just absolutely disgusting. And apparently, whenever you're casting this, you can move at full speed, and you are immune to disabling effects. This is a lie. I'm always interrupted or stunned by random things whenever I'm casting this ability, and they need to fix that. On our back bar, we have Race Against Time. This ability grants us immunity to snares and removes them from us. It also gives us Major Expedition, allowing us to run fast, and Minor Force, which bumps up our crit damage even further. This ability is very difficult to pass up, and you need to get it for this build to work. Next up, we have Resolving Vigor. This is a heal over time. Probably be questioning why we have this on the build. Well, a lot of the time you're going to end up getting caught out of stealth by some sort of cheesy mechanic that ZeniMax implemented and you didn't know about, and well, this will help negate some of the pressure that you'll take while you're out of stealth. It's not going to save you 100% of the time, but it will sure help. Next up, we have Leeching Strikes. This is our sustainability. We cast this, and every second that it goes, the more stamina we'll get back when it expires, and also we can spam this over and over again to build Fate stacks so it can get more damage. Next up, we have Rally, one of the bestest buffs in the game. Whenever you cast this, you get damage, recovery, and it's a burst heal, and gives you access to the Vatran proc. What's not to like about it? Next up, we have Shadowy Disguise. This ability allows us to go invisible, to reposition ourselves, to go offensive or use it defensively. I am well aware of what is happening to this ability next patch, and the fact that it's no longer allowing you to negate dot damage while cloaked, which is ridiculous because apparently that was a bug, which is not true. This has been a feature in the game forever, and now all of a sudden it's a bug. And I don't understand why ZeniMax won't look at other skills that are actually bugged, like Fossilize and Leap on the Dragonite. It just baffles me and blows my mind, but just be aware of that next patch, that it's going to be very tough to survive on this build in stealth, because Zenimax has no idea what they're doing. For our backbar ultimate, we have Soul Tether. This is here because we're using it defensively. We're going to be caught on our backbar a lot of the time, and normally we're going to be outnumbered, so we just use this ultimate, and it'll stun everyone around us and allow us to get away at the same time as healing us. And you can try and use it offensively, but it's not going to be as effective as just toxic barraging someone to death. And yeah, it's just here for the defensive purpose of it. And it should be a given that you should fill out all of your passives, but do note when you're filling out your passives, especially for the Psijic Order skill line, to remove the Spell Orb passive. This passive is dumb. Whenever you're casting a bunch of abilities, so like Race Against Time and Stealth, if you generate 5 stacks of this, it'll immediately pull you out of stealth because it will go off and hit some random guy across the map, which will pull you out of stealth, and it's annoying, so remove this passive. Looking at our champion points in the role player tree, we have Master Gatherer, Plentiful Harvest, Steed's Blessing, and Sustaining Shadows. Also, I think you should take a look at this little star right here. Just look at it. In the sweaty tree, we have Fighting Finesse, Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, and Backstabber. And do be aware that next patch in the High Isle DLC, these numbers are getting reduced, so they're not going to be as big as they are now. In the potato tree, we have Celerity, Survival Instincts, Sustained by Suffering, and Slippery. And do be aware while you're filling out your Survival Instincts passive that you only put 10 points into Mystic Tenacity so you can get more mileage out of Survival Instincts. And also go ahead and fill out all the little golden stars as well, but aim for those passives. Hello and welcome to the combat stuff section of the video. If you're not familiar with this section, well, basically we just talk about combat stuff, so like the rotation, how to play this build, what to look out for, and you know, just talk about some general ESO combat stuff. And yeah. So let's immediately start with the mechanics and stuff about this build. So first off, you need to understand stealth mechanics. In short, it just takes some time to learn. You just need to know where to be and where not to be when you're trying to stay hidden, using cloak at the right time and your resources properly in order to not die and stay hidden so you can get into a position where you can get a gank off. Next thing I want to talk about is the mechanics of the bow and arrow and how it works from stealth. If you don't know, because you haven't watched my other explanation of like the Bowsorg video, well, basically bow and arrows get a 1.7 times damage multiplier from stealth, and you can't stun from stealth if you're using basic bow attacks like a light attack, a heavy attack, or a lethal arrow. You can't stun from stealth doing that. In order to stun from stealth using a bow and arrow, you have to be hidden. And I'm not talking like how it says hidden whenever you cloak. I'm talking about you need to be crouched and in stealth, and it needs to say hidden in the middle of your screen while you're crouched in order for it to work. And in order for you to get the stun from stealth, you need to use Crushing Weapon while you're crouched on a light attack. You don't have to pre-buff Crushing Weapon. You can activate it while your arrow's traveling through the air in order to get the stun from stealth. And those are the mechanics of it. Not a lot of people seem to understand that, but you need to be crouched in order for you to get the stun off, so make sure you're actually crouched and in sneak mode. And one last thing about stealth and how it works for this build, you have to be behind your target when you get the combo to go off, so make sure you're not in front of your target or somewhere in that general cone in front of them, because if you're in front of them, they're not going to take the additional damage multiplier from stealth, and they're also not going to get stunned. You have to be behind your target. So now that I have learned you up real good about the mechanics that this build takes advantage of, let's go over the rotation. So there are 2 rotations. The first rotation is the one I always use. It's the most reliable, and this is easy to get. You can kill players with 35k health, maybe more if everything crits. So it goes as follows. You're going to buff up, you're going to be in stealth, you're going to be crouched in stealth. You're going to get behind your target. Once you're in position, what you're going to do is you're going to Crushing Weapon, Light Attack, Lethal Arrow, Light Attack, Impale. And then your target is going to proceed to not exist in the gene pool any longer. For targets that survive the combo or manage to get out of it, or they're just too tanky to die to the combo because they have like 40k health or 28k resist, what you're going to do is you're going to follow up with a Lethal Arrow, Light Attack, Crushing Weapon over and over again until they're in Impale range. If it's still not enough, wait till you're Merciless to get ready, and then cast that when that's ready to go. And if you have Toxic Barrage and you know you can get it off safely, go ahead and just use your ult on them so that way you can secure the kill. So the combo I'm about to talk about now is an advanced combo. I've tried to pull it off many times in PvP, but it's just not very successful. It's not very reliable, so that's why I use the other one. But nonetheless, it's a combo that you guys can try and do. And it'll definitely reward you if you can pull it off properly, but I feel like it's more RNG based than anything. So what you're going to do is you're going to buff up, you're going to be behind your target, and then what you're going to do is you're going to, from stealth, start by casting Lethal Arrow, When your character is about to let go of the bowstring on the lethal arrow animation, you want to start mashing the light attack button. Once you see the light attack has left your bow, you're going to hit crushing weapon, and then you're immediately going to follow up with impale. What should happen is your target should get stunned by the light attack, crushing weapon, and immediately after that, take the lethal arrow hit as well, and the impale, all at the exact same time, which should kill them outright. But like I said, it's very difficult to pull off in PvP because if performance was crisp, you'd be able to master it and pull it off every time. But what's actually happening is that your light attack travels ever so slightly faster than lethal arrow does, so we're taking advantage of that to get the stun from the light attack crushing weapon from stealth to land right before the lethal arrow does in order to get all of them to hit at once from stealth, giving us the 1.7 times multiplier as well as hitting them all at once with that ability. And then we just followed up with impale and they're dead. And I guess now that we got all the fun combos out of the way, we can talk about survival. So there is no real survival rotation other than cloak, get away from your target, and reposition yourself till you can get into a good vantage point where you can gank them. And, well, this is a gank spec, so if you do get caught out of stealth, it's up to you to cast your heals, use line of sight, and cloak all at the same time, and soul tether if there's a lot of people, to get away from a tough situation. And that's not something I could exactly talk about, that just takes practice. But I can tell you to look out for is just not making stupid decisions. Know the kind of health that you're going to be dealing with when you try and gank a target. Be aware of how many enemies are nearby the target that you're trying to kill, because guaranteed as soon as you come out of stealth for that gank with the bow and arrow, all those people that are around him are going to see you kill him, and they're all going to turn around and zerg you down, or at least attempt to. So you need to be fast, and you need to know what to do and where to make a good decision. It's like a fight or flight thing, but you definitely need to fly in this situation instead of fight, because this build cannot do the 1vx or the duels. It's not a Dragonite overpowered unkillable god mode 1vx super machine build of all time. It's a gank spec, and I forgot that the first day I tried to put this back together and play it on stream. But the next day, I realized what I did wrong. I played it like a gank spec. I waited. I was patient. I looked for opportunities and openings. I watched what people were doing, and I waited for them to let their guard down before I went in for the kill, and I was rewarded for it. And all I'm saying is just use your brain when you're playing this build, and you'll do just fine, and you'll have a lot of fun.
I will wait.
In conclusion of the combat stuff section, this build does exactly what I designed it to do. It's got a lot of mechanics involved that you gotta learn, but once you understand them, you can definitely use this build to perform well in ganking, at least with a bow and arrow. I have not seen a ganking bow spec in a while, other than people just spamming Toxic Barrage and considering that a gank. This is more of that kind of pure-blooded gank that we saw a while ago with Lethal Arrow and how powerful it used to be. And I really like where this build is at the moment in next patch. At least speaking from Ascending Tide and not in High Isle yet because I'm on console. I'm looking forward to seeing what this build is capable of doing with Order's Wrath in place of Leviathan. I expect it to perform very well, at least in open world, because this build still struggles very much in Battlegrounds. It is more strictly an open world build because this build needs space, it needs room, and any close quarters fights, we're automatically at a disadvantage because we have a bow and arrow, and well, if people just roll dodge once, they avoid our entire combo for like 3 seconds, and it's annoying. So that's why we stick to open world. But yeah, hopefully when you put this build together, you keep these things in mind, so that way when you're playing it, you don't get frustrated and you make better decisions when you're playing it, and then you can get some good ganks, and then you can just flex on people because of your amazing sniper MLG skills as you do 360 no scopes and kill people, and yeah. And yeah, that will about do it for our one-shot Stamina Nightblade Spoinky Doinky MLG bow build trick shot machine for the High IO DLC. If you want more weird things and builds, you can go find my stuff on my channel. I do a lot of weird things and stuff, and well, a lot of people seem to enjoy the weird things that I do, so yeah. I don't know about you, but I gotta go hit more trick shots, so have a good night.